We are halfway to Australia with a layover in Abu Dhabi, and we thought, instead of resting, why don't we do something a little bit outrageous? We've given ourselves 48 hours in Abu Dhabi on our way to Australia to try and break it up because we are traveling with a 1-year-old, and that is a whole different kettle of fish. So, as my mum always says, do you think this is the world's most spoiled baby? You tell me. So our journey started here at Heathrow Airport. As you can see, we have the naivety and excitement levels are high. We've flown with Hugo before, but not as a 1-year-old, and that is very different. So the pros is that he is more fun, and your flight will definitely go faster, but the negatives is that he's much bigger, wants to crawl about a bit, and no longer fits in the bassinet. So sleeping looks a little bit like this. So you take it in turns to look after him, so there's no downtime per se. First stop is teamLab's Phenomena. It is an immersive sensory, and it's perfect for little ones because it's all colours, lights and movement. It's essentially a giant baby sensory class, but way more bougie. It is officially a modern art museum, although to be honest it's more like Instagram farming. Lots of people come here just to get really cool Instagram videos and photos. There is one in Japan that we had been to before, which was absolutely amazing and an absolute highlight. So I knew it would be absolutely perfect to take Hugo to, being that it is so sensory for him. Also, you do get a lot of good Instagram and videos yourself, can't lie. But at this age, he was just starting to crawl properly. So as somewhere that he could get out, crawl around, as obviously on the plane is not much of an option. So while we were having this layover, I really wanted to give him some time to explore that was not strapped in a seat, and he was loving it. And if this isn't the most positive, colourful, fun place to learn to crawl, I don't know what is. This is the first room you walk into. It changes colours. We actually haven't even left the first room in this video just yet. It starts with butterflies, does the water, and then it does all these wonderful colours, which, as you can see, would be absolutely amazing for a baby. So one of my favourite things about teamLabs is that it's so immersive and so interactive. So this is just the hallway to one of the sites, and so as you can see, every time he touches it, the confetti type runs away. He's smiling and laughing and getting so excited. And doing this, we had done the only downside is that he was not heavy enough for this portion. His weight wasn't high enough. But for older kids, that isn't much of an issue. But he was fine for the walls. So you can imagine if he has been stuck on a 8-hour flight from London to the Middle East, he would have been very sensory deprived. Same noise, white noise on, nothing colourful. And so he gets to come here. So you can imagine how much they're absolutely buzzing. This room, slightly menacing. I don't quite understand how or why it worked. I was there for the vibes, but essentially this ball is levitating and I don't know how. Absolute witchcraft. After that, we were back at the colourful interactive walls again because he loved them so much. This room was a light installation, so it has a little dome at the top and you lay down and look up at it, which was really good for laying down with the baby, which was good. But the only downside to all of this is that he loves a snack, and obviously there's no food in any of these rooms because they're art installations. So he was getting a bit antsy and wanted to crawl around some more. But fortunately for us, there's ample opportunity for him to be on the ground and crawling around. This place is also super, super clean. So it's also great for him to explore around in this area. This is a dome you walk into. I'm standing on a net, and yeah, it's so trippy you can fall over. But it was my favourite room because it felt like you were actually in space. Moving on, there's an entire child's room where you get to do some drawing, scan it in, and it enters the floor, which was just once again a perfect spot for him to do some more crawling because that's what he was looking for. He was also going through a ball phase at this point, so when we went into this room, which was full of these silver balloon balls in a cyclone, absolutely being blown everywhere. I'm not sure how good the footage is here, but he absolutely lost his little mind. He was like, ball, 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 ball. So he can see he loves kicking them. I know I don't want to be stereotypical, but I do feel like he will like football when he gets to that age, because he can barely walk and he was already trying to kick those around. So you go into this room and it turns into a big cyclone of balls and everything gets flown around, and he's obviously so small that it's just it's quite the experience when you're, not even a meter tall yet. Then my favourite part, and the part I was looking most forward to, is you go up this water ramp. So you've got to take your shoes and socks off. It's absolutely bizarre, but it's something that's in the Japan one that wasn't there when we went. It's installed later. It is essentially a tricky way of you cleaning your feet. So at the top of this ramp is a waterfall, so you're essentially walking up the waterfall. We held Hugo for this part, obviously. He was not a good idea for that, but it just feels like you're in space. And there's the beautiful waterfall. So you can see how just the whole space is just so alien-esque. By alien-esque, we then enter what I like to think is the alien eggs. These are floating on water, and they're all reflective, and they have neon lights everywhere. And the room is full of mirrors, so it just is an infinity room. And as we said, he's loving balls at the moment, so this was truly a hit. See, he kept trying to grab his reflection. So, this was my favourite room, I think, because there's something about being in knee-deep water that it's just so bizarre to be in like a museum. To be in the artwork like this is truly amazing. I really loved it so much. And then we put his little feet in to give him a bit of a wash since he'd been crawling around on the floor, but perhaps this is why the floors are so clean. Everyone is constantly cleaning their feet. But he's kicking his little feet, he had fun, he was like, what is happening? This is truly such a refresher for all of your senses, even if you're not a child, even, you know, as an adult, to do this as a layover is great. It just shocks your system. Lastly, we went up into this garden area. This was after the water area, so they just had these cubes of flowers in as a little walkthrough. So it's less intensive than the others, but a nice little palette cleanser. And there was a room of mirrors at the very end that, once again, Hugo, being the high confidence little boy I have raised, is absolutely loving it. But we don't stop there. As you know, this is a jam-packed 48 hours in Abu Dhabi, so we are moving on from the neon lights of teamLabs to the white marble of the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque. Apologies, I'm probably butchering the name. It is full of domes, columns and reflection pools. It feels like something out of Aladdin. I feel like Jasmine. It is so beautiful. It was 45 degrees, however, so it was unbelievably hot. Everyone kept looking at Hugo saying, baby big red, but that didn't let him dampen his spirits. He still loved it. In general, he tends to really like a pattern on a white background, so he was actually quite happy here, but I loved it. This was, I think, my highlight of entirely Abu Dhabi altogether. He was mesmerised by the patterns and the arches, but I was dripping in sweat, but it's absolutely one of those bucket list places worth visiting. It is absolutely stunning. It is a conservative place as it is a mosque, so you have to dress appropriately. I knew it was going to be hot and all my conservative clothing is warm, so underneath the mosque is a mall. I'm sure there's a metaphor there somewhere, but essentially you can buy the correct outfit underneath, which is what I did, because I just kind of knew whatever I wore would be wrong and I'd rather just wear what was appropriate and what they suggested. So we got these big appropriate coverings, and they were also quite cooling, and they came with a hood which also covered the top of my head. But the mosque itself is these gems and stones that are shaped perfectly into place for the shapes in the marble, and most importantly, the mosque is free to enter. And that wraps up our day 1. So we come back, we're gonna have a rest before day 2, which I know I'm not looking the freshest, but it is the start of day 2 in Abu Dhabi. Yesterday we did the mosque. It's like the most famous thing here. Did that, was amazing, loved it. It is 47 degrees, that was hell, but it was beautiful nonetheless. And used the same architecture as Taj Mahal. Hugo's down here playing with my shoe. And we also went to teamLabs, which we've done in Japan, which was really good, particularly for him because it's very sensory. Today we're going to Warner Brothers Studios. It is the biggest indoor theme park in the world. Basically, Abu Dhabi is kind of up and coming, I feel, in terms of like its tourist game. It's obviously nowhere near the level of Dubai yet, so there's definitely more things. Oh, we went also to dinner to the Emirates Palace last night. Honestly, don't understand the hype on that unless you're staying there. Like, it was fine, but I don't know why it's like the #1 thing to do here. But anyway, so yeah, Warner Brothers Studios, flight tonight. He sleeps the whole way, won't you? Not instilling confidence. And then we get to Australia for his birthday. I really rate having a layover with a baby. Makes a big difference. The layover makes him slightly more He adjusts his jet lag slightly faster when we get to Australia because now he's not doing it as big a change. And we get to have a bit of a rest, although I was up till 2 AM last night doing invoices for people for my coaching business, which if you don't know about, I'll be telling you more about soon, but I doubt it's up, like, it's very specific unless you need it. But yeah, let's go to Warner Brothers Studios. One of the downsides to Abu Dhabi is you do need a car, so we have driven to Warner Brothers Studios. However, I will say the parking everywhere is free, which I do love. Now, this is the entrance to Warner Brothers Studios. It's quite different. I've been to some Warner Brothers Studios, I've never seen anything like this. But as soon as we walked in, we went at opening, there was a show, which was kind of the first time I've ever really watched a show at a theme park, because I normally go with Daniel and we're all about the rides. So it was actually quite nice to hold Hugo and kind of show him that. He loved it, seeing the dancing, songs and the dancing and all the lights going off. This Warner Brothers, I don't know for all of them, this one is so superhero themed. It's kind of if you took Disneyland, what they did with the princesses, but made it for superheroes. So, and they also done the lands like Disneyland does, you know, Futureland and Princess Land or whatever. So this one is Gotham, so you get to walk through Gotham City. So it's all the Batman imagery. Because it's indoors, they were able to control the lighting. So when you're in the Gotham City area, it feels like you're at nighttime. And so they also have the villains from Batman. So you've got the Joker, you had Scarecrow. The Scarecrow ride was the most insane. There wasn't heaps of rides for Hugo. They did have this kids area here, which is like the cartoon area, although you do need to be like a meter for most rides. But they did have a huge soft play area for him, which was really good. So he liked that, and they had a little kids section for like under twos. So that was nice to just encourage some more crawling and movement. So this night was the night we were flying. So while he was sleeping in his pram, Daniel and I would go on all the rides. We think that Daniel looks like Superman. You can tell me what you think, but this is my MVP tool for travel, or in general. This is my white noise machine. It's portable. I also use it in his bedroom all the time. It has different sounds. I just keep it on the standard one, and you can turn the volume up or down depending on where you are. So when we're in public somewhere like this, I'll pop it in the bottom of his pram like so. And although we're still very much in the center part of the theme park, and as you can imagine, being indoors and air conditioned, it's very noisy, he still sleeps. And while he was napping, they managed to put a show on right there, which was kind of annoying because I thought I found somewhere quite quiet, but apparently not. It was just, I guess, an unused stage. But have no fear, my snooze cozy plus my white noise machine meant that we have an undisturbed baby. Baby's asleep. Now it's our turn to go on all of the big rides. This was the Riddler ride. It was my second favourite. It was a good one though. This was us lining up for the Scooby-Doo ride that we eventually got rejected from because he was too little. But we did manage to get him on the merry-go-round, which he's done before, and he likes a merry-go-round. Although he has started to try and stand up on everything, so he wanted to really stand up on the horse, which we don't rate. But he was holding on himself, which was nice. For him, there wasn't heaps to do. I would say wait till your child is about 2 walking, then there's way more for them. But I did appreciate the amount of rides they had that were family friendly, and the amount of theming they had that was for characters that were not as well known, like Marvin the Martian, as you just saw. This is Hugo starting his vlogging career. Even though he couldn't go on the rides, the Toontown area is still really colourful and nice. Part of the merch here, they're trying to do that Disney thing. As I said, it's all superhero, so you can buy capes for children to wear, and all the kids are wearing these. So I bought one for him, a little bit big, but it was like $5, so not even £5. £2.50 or $5. And we got him Superman because we thought, because Daniel looks like Superman, his dad is Superman, so he can be Superman too. And they also have a phone box that you can take photos in, so we were just setting him up to do some silly photos. All in all, it was a really good place to hang out because it was air conditioned, safe, clean, places for him to crawl around. They had the soft play, places for us to be entertained. They had shows and things that were for him, but then when he's sleeping we could do the rides. So it was a really good place for us to hang out. We also took turns with the rides. The ride queues were so low that we were able to do this. Obviously you can't do that in Disneyland. 10 out of 10, I rate it. Was this the most sensible way to spend 48 hours in Abu Dhabi? Probably not. But was it the most fun? Absolutely. So while most babies get play gyms, ours gets mosques, it gets modern art museums, and the biggest indoor theme park in the world. So yeah, maybe he's a little spoiled, but that economy is keeping him humble. He's not in business class yet. That said, I do think Abu Dhabi is a really good stopover if you're traveling with kids, because doing the full flight from Sydney to London or vice versa is a lot for children. And Abu Dhabi is very child friendly. Everything is family friendly here, which is fantastic. And there's even more to do than we've managed to squeeze in, so I will probably be returning again. Everything is indoors, lots of sensory options, very, very safe, very, very clean, very accessible. It's a new city, so it's been built with intent, which is lovely. So would you do this with your baby, or are we completely mad? Comment below and don't forget to subscribe because the next stop is Australia.